I just wanted to quickly introduce Lauren. You've heard all about her, but I am absolutely thrilled. I took a workshop from her last summer at the Museum of Contemporary Art in downtown San Diego, and it was amazing. And since then, I've been trying to convince her to join us on the faculty, and she's been too busy. So this is kind of a blessing for us that we get to have her, that, you know, her gallery isn't kind of on hold right now. So Lauren, take it away.
I'm just going to start with the slideshow. Let me just start sharing so we can go through. I'll show you a few pieces of mine too, just so you get an idea of what my style is, and then kind of the structure of the workshop. And yeah, please, absolutely, if you do have any questions along the way, just unmute yourself. I definitely want it to be a conversation. And let's see, share screen. Okay. So this workshop is on Mondays, every Monday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And this is an example of a work that I've created in the past. And so this is a watercolor and ink drawing. And, you know, this class is all about, you know, getting loose. Of course, I love the figure, so I find that quite a bit in the work that I'm creating. But I do want everyone to kind of find what they enjoy the most, and we'll be actually directing a lot of the workshops based on individuals' interest. And so I'll start to tailor workshops based on, you know, what everyone is interested in. So that way we can really get an idea of, you know, our intense passions we want to follow. I feel like that's really important. This is a piece that I created by just making marks on a panel. And I started to see figures in the gestures. So it was all about kind of discovering the shapes in random marks. And so this is a series called I Am What I Think You Think I Am. And so after I created the work, I decided to really think through, you know, why am I creating this work? And that's when I titled it and started to really figure out, okay, what is interesting me in this work? And it led into my research into like sociological studies. So I feel like this class is going to be about making first, and then kind of reflecting on what we've created and finding, you know, what our interests are based on what we've actually created in class. And then, so this is the workshop outline. And so for every workshop, I'd like to, you know, follow this similar structure where we're going to explore a new technique. And that's just to kind of loosen up. So I think this workshop is really good for beginners, but also intermediate artists, just to kind of break down the traditional structures of courses. It's just something that will be more about intuitive mark making, less about having to, you know, properly, you know, draw an object or still life. It'll be more gestural. Discover how a historical or contemporary artist has employed that technique. So I'll bring up a historical artist or a new artist that is working with these ideas and concepts, and kind of go through them briefly before we start the workshop portion where we're actually working on our own art pieces. And while we're creating the artwork, I definitely think it's important to not have an end, you know, end product in mind, not an end image in mind, because I think it's important to just allow yourself to explore shapes and colors and really break it down. So we're not looking for a perfect image or perfect drawing. And after we've created the artwork, we'll be reviewing artwork together. I think it's important to start a conversation, to critique, you know, constructively as a group. And I think that it is exciting to actually have those conversations while we're looking at artwork, so we can really break down all the different pieces of the image that we typically wouldn't. I think when you do deep looking, you start to see things that you wouldn't normally see. And so I definitely would like to create a Google shared folder so that we can upload images of our completed artwork for us all to review the following class. And I think it would be really wonderful to have a sketchbook. I'm not sure if everyone does that regularly, but I definitely encourage that because I feel like it does help just to keep your ideas flowing and to constantly get into this movement of creating artwork, even if you don't have a clear idea of what you want to make, just mark making at all. And so this idea of creating art kind of without any end goal in mind is called automatism. And so this concept, I think, will be a really strong like anchor for the entire class. So it really means creating art without conscious thought, accessing material from the unconscious mind as part of the creative process. So I think this is a really wonderful way to just start to stimulate your mind, to get ideas flowing without overthinking it. I don't know about you guys, but when I look at a blank canvas or a blank piece of paper, I am so overwhelmed and I'm not sure where to start. And I feel like I have this like writer's block or, artist block where it's impossible to figure out how to even begin. And so by creating marks on a piece of paper, just starting somewhere, I feel like that will help kind of guide you into a direction, even if, you're not sure where it's going. So that will be a major concept that we'll be exploring throughout each workshop. And just so we know giving content or context to this concept, André Breton is the founder of Surrealism. And so he coined this term automatism and explored it in the visual art realm after reading all about Sigmund Freud's research. So it was all about, pure psychic automatism and, excuse me. And let me see here, hide this. So he's the writer of the Manifesto of Surrealism, and he wrote about 3 versions of this early in the 1900s. And it was just all about creating without any conscious thought, without thinking, just doing. And so that, again, is going to be kind of the focus of the entire class, because I feel like you find quite a lot about yourself once you reflect on the work that you created. And I think it just creates an interesting, experience and an interesting process, rather than focusing on an end, copying a photograph. What the photograph is going to look like. There really isn't an excitement to that process. To me, I think I get excited when I'm learning more about, why I'm creating these things and during the process. And this is an example of his work where he is doing automatic drawing without, thinking. He's just creating artwork. And, these dismembered arms, it is a very surreal image. And then looking back at his work, he has been working during World War I, World War II. And so there's these images of war that you can kind of see that develop in his work. And I feel like it has its own story. He's not working towards a final image. It's just a part of his process and a part of things that are in his mind that he's getting out. And I do think that is a form of therapy, which I think we can all agree that art feels very therapeutic. I feel like when you create art, you go into kind of a state of relaxation. Some people call this a flow state, where you're just creating and you kind of go away somewhere else and you're hyper focusing on the artwork that you're making. And I feel like that allows for so much to really come out from your mind. Things that are there that you don't necessarily tap into now can just flow from your hand to the page. And so I'm really interested in seeing how people can tap into that, and also what that will lead to for their future art practices and art pieces. And I think that is definitely the main goal. Again, just the process and not knowing where you're going, but allowing yourself to just accept that you're embracing the chance. You accept that you just don't know where exactly you're going with it, but at the end of the line, there's going to be something that you've created. And I think that's enough. And this is just a brief demo that I've recorded in the past. I do have my, my video camera here, if you can see me. This is where I'll be traditionally making marks and showing you techniques as we go along. But I did create this video just as a quick demo, what we'll be working on today of an automatic drawing. And so it's only about 2 minutes, there is some audio just to go along with the fast pace of the demo. Okay, so that was a quick demo of just that process of creating without, anything in mind. And then at the end, it is, deep looking, seeing what is important to me in that image, and then bringing it to life with an ink pen. And so that's something that we'll work on today. And then also thinking about titling it. So creating a story with the title. In the last moment, I just spent just a couple seconds thinking about the title, and I titled it "The Owl's Nest of Earthy Delights." So just something that top of my mind. And I feel like that kind of brings the story together. And of course, later on in our workshops, we'll talk about what's successful in our drawings and perhaps like what could push them to be, more successful, or possibly even collaging. So we can definitely do this in like different layers. But I would love for us to do a part of that. So if you do have your materials with you, I would love for us to take the next few minutes just to start making marks. And in the video, I'm using, I think, one or two paintbrushes, but feel free to use just one paintbrush and just try to do different types of mark making. There's no wrong way to do it. But if you want to start just doing that for the next few minutes, and then we can take a pause in the middle and start doing some deep looking. So feel free to continue. And so of course, and while you're working, I'll just kind of mention, while in the workshop, this will be much longer. It's about 2 hours. So we'll be creating work, together in this space. We'll be able to share work while we're all in the Zoom class together. But also if you want to break up into groups, we can start, talking about that during the class session. But feel free to just continue for just the next few minutes. And we'll take the next 1 minute just to wrap up this first part. Okay, now for the next minute, I would love for us to just do some deep looking at the artwork that you've just created. And of course it looks, I mean, just marks on a paper, but I feel like sometimes you can find shapes in those marks. I always associate it with looking at clouds and finding animals in clouds. So it's something that's very, you know, it seems like a child would do, but I think that there's so much creativity in even the smallest gesture. So just for the next minute, take a look, and without making any more marks, just allow the paper to dry and just see if you can find an image within the marks that you've made. Okay, and now for the next few minutes, try to, if you found that image in the marks that you've made, try to bring those images to the surface by taking a pen or marker or even a dark line of the watercolor and draw the outline of those images to bring them to the surface. And so we'll take a few minutes to do that. just finish up in the next minute.
Lauren, is this just the outline, or are we also going inside? Like, are we just outlining?
Oh, you can do it if wherever you see the image, anything. You can pretty much, as long as whatever image you see, try to bring it to the surface with any mark making. So feel free to be experimental. Yeah, and of course, during the workshop, it'll be less, you know, rapidly. The pace today was quite quick to get under the 30 minutes for the demo, but in the workshop, it'll be at a smoother, slower pace so we can fully enjoy the process. Okay. And how's everyone doing so far with the drawings? And it's okay if, you know, it's not meant to be a final, you know, a final masterpiece. It's supposed to be about the process, I think, just to start. And you'll be amazed as you continue to do practices like this, that you'll see the images, you know, so quickly. You'll be able to bring it out to the surface. I feel like I'm constantly, you know, traveling and going to restaurants, looking at their bathroom tile and seeing an image and wanting to draw it in the moment. But it is a nice exercise to continue. All right, and let's wrap it up. Do you guys want to show your drawings, your paintings that you've created? And what did you guys find? Okay, oh my gosh, these are exciting. Whoa. And yeah, and while the workshops will be doing, you know, sample techniques. Oh, that's great. Looks like a dragon. And that, let's see. And did everyone find, and did they find animals or a scene in theirs? Oh my gosh.
Birds and butterflies and a dragon.
Oh, very cool.
I found like a little sea creature right here.
Oh, cool. I know. Oh, I see a little mouse, it looks like, in there. Yeah, it's honestly so interesting because I feel like you'll start to look into why you keep seeing certain animals in your work. I'm always fascinated by that because I've realized after a while I kept seeing birds in all of my paintings. And then that creates a narrative in itself. And then you can create an entire series based off of that. So I think it's quite interesting to see, you know, what's really going on in your mind. And you know, I think now more than ever, we're so overwhelmed with things going on in the world, and so sometimes it's nice to look internally to figure out, you know, what are you really thinking about, what do you really care about, and you know, and why. So I think it's a nice way to just calm the mind. And I mean, during class, I would probably talk about different techniques for focus, and you know, I'm so interested also in the scientific aspect of it. So I do quite a bit of research in neuroscience, and, you know, because I'm so interested in how artists tap into flow, that flow state, how people kind of get into this very intensely concentrated state of flow. So that's something I think we'd be talking about, techniques that we can use to maintain focus, in whether it's in our art practice or in daily activities with work. So that's something that I think is very useful for creating artwork. But does anyone have, I know it's quite a rushed morning workshop, but does anyone have any questions about the workshop itself or just about the process?
Lauren, what are the dates again?
They're Monday, so every Monday, but from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And that's from September 21st to November 9th.
Thank you.
And if you have questions, you might have to unmute your speaker.
Mute. Hi, Laura. Thanks. This was fun, actually. A little scary, but fun. Do you use mostly watercolor and ink? Is that your main medium, or do you also use acrylics, or I don't know, just pen and ink? I mean, it looks like from your own work that there's a variety.
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, it's funny when people look into the studio, it looks like a different artist has created something in the space. And so I think I definitely like to experiment with different materials. So watercolor is my favorite go-to, just because how quick, you know, you can access it and you can travel with it. But I do like to challenge myself with oils. So I have an oil painting up here. I have an acrylic painting here. And so trying to figure out, you know, what I enjoy the most. And I feel like when you experiment with different materials, you can sometimes go back into an old material in a different way. But yeah, for this workshop, I'm definitely open to, you know, what individuals are interested in learning and working with. I think for this kind of immediate action, something that's fast drying is really wonderful. So any type of pen, inks, pencils, charcoals, that would be great. But definitely if you're comfortable, you know, experimenting with materials, I can fully support that and try to help guide you with that.
So Lauren, what pen were you using in your demo? Because it had such a nice definition.
Yes. So I have this, they're micro pens. Faber-Castell also has a great set of them, but I usually try to find a variety. So this one is a 0.05, and then, so it's quite fine. But sometimes it is nice to have thick black lines, kind of bring the image forward. So sometimes I'll even use an ink nib, which is, oh gosh, do I have them on my thing? Or a bamboo pen. Have you seen those before? So I'm happy to put together a list of resources and materials that could be really helpful. Especially, you know, a thick black pen on white paper, sometimes at the end, you just, I mean, frame it and it's, you know, looks amazing to have just the black and white traditional. But I'm happy to put together, you know, a list of materials, but also resources too. So I love to share links to documentaries or, you know, any type of articles that might be interesting for the group. So I'll probably circulate things like that during the workshop.
I have a question.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Do you ever go back and forth? Like, I know there are no rules, but it was neat how you started off with the watercolors super loose and it's almost like subconscious, and then you sort of got into the conscious mind with the pen.
Mm-hmm.
I found in my drawing I kind of wanted to go back to the watercolor when the image was getting more defined with the pen. Do you ever go back and forth, or you stick to one? Because now it's kind of like open. I like the openness.
Yeah, sometimes I do. I feel like it is a nice moment to kind of go see that and think, oh, okay, actually I do see something else. Let me go back into that. So absolutely, I think there are no you know, rules to this, but I do think there are other ways. We'll be, you know, experimenting with tearing the paper and possibly doing collage. So looking at parts of the work. You know, sometimes it's successful and in your mind, you think, yes, like I love this, or something that's bothering you. And so I'm okay with people kind of going back in and tearing that paper out, putting something new in there, kind of just experimenting with the materials. So 100% during the workshop, there'll be, you know, moments where people will need to make adjustments, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's neat. It's just like the idea of trying to keep it open as much as possible.
Yeah, I feel like it's so hard to be loose.
Yeah.
So I went to undergrad and I focused mostly on the figure. And after school, I just didn't love making art. I just felt I just was so tight and I couldn't loosen up. And I always had this idea of, oh, I need to make it look a certain way. And it kind of took the fun out of making artwork.
Totally.
Yeah, this helped me kind of get back into it. So I feel like this is kind of like art rehab, like trying to get back.
Yeah, that's almost why I'm interested in the course.
Are you an artist yourself?
Yeah, and I've taught and stuff, but it's like you get to a certain point where you get so tight that you almost need to go back and be beginner again or something.
100%. I think that's also why I think I read far outside of art to kind of get a different type of inspiration for art making. Because sometimes if I'm in one narrow vision of what art is, then it's really hard to explore for me.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Any
Really
other
fun.
questions? Thank you guys so much for coming today. Yeah, and I promise the workshop will be a much more calmer. We'll have time to actually focus and make some work and get creative
This
together.
has really been interesting. Thank you, Lauren.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you
thought
very
it was really
much.
cool that you could fit it all in to this time period. You did a
Yeah.
great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very organized and together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Amanda.
We're looking for more figures.
And let me know, you guys can always email me or call me if you have questions about anything. So
Thank you, Amanda, so
thanks for
much.
joining us.
Happy Labor Day.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Maybe see you again soon.
Yes.
So.